Hello, hi viewers. Welcome to the podcast. I am Dr. Varsha Paul. On the occasion of March 8th, as you all know, Women's Day, I have a very special guest with me. She is the epitome of grace, wit, and intelligence, and she has an experience of almost 30 years of teaching. Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Varsha. Hi.
This is Dr. SOBANA, ma'am, Dean Academics, Bishop Heber College. So, welcome to the podcast, ma'am.
Thank you, dear. Bowled over by your beautiful words.
Thank
in
you.
praise of me. Hope I live up to the expectation rest of my life.
Sure. Ma'am, a first question. As a woman, how did you face these challenges of doing PhD and breaking the shackles, especially in a male-dominated society, breaking the stereotypes? I think you did your PhD in the year 1996.
Yes.
I think you completed. You registered?
Yes, registered in 96.
So that was really a wow factor in those days. How did you manage, ma'am? First question.
It was a difficult task getting to register for PhD when I just then entered teaching career. It was simply, I would say, forced on me because it was mandatory those days to get registered the moment you're recruited. And so I went with the flow and I registered. It took some time for me to get to know what PhD really mean. Research is a different area altogether. I got recruited after about 6 years finishing my MA. And so all along I'd been only reading casually and not much serious reading I'd been doing. And so it was a big leap from my MA to a research career after I was recruited, of course. But after some time of serious reading, I got to understand what this research could mean. You won't know, you'll be surprised to know that I didn't know that I had to find a problem.
Yeah.
And the problem which is so famously spoken of today,
Yes,
and discussed too in the research circles, the very word was unknown to me those days. All that mattered to me was going to the library and getting to see the books and start reading. And so it was only after about 3-4 years I got to the crux of research in the form of finding a problem.
So, ma'am, you have guided almost 7 scholars, if I'm right. Am I
Yes.
right? Yeah. So, how do you think the research has evolved, or what has the landscape of PhD evolved, especially in this era?
Yes. Literature, I come from literature background. English literature. Literature is written in English, or literature is translated into English, both in England and in other countries, Commonwealth countries especially. Literatures and the study, and there are various kinds of studies of literatures, would usually hit a researcher as set of themes. It's because the researcher approaches literature, we're approaching the culture from which a literature is produced. And so themes which describe the culture are the ones that come to a researcher first. And so generally it's thematological study that had been the trend in the early days.
Okay.
But later on, how themes emerge from the narrative in the form of various narrative techniques and artifacts has become a very popular study these days. And studying the translational aspects or comparative paradigms of literatures. These have become the latest trends these days by making the study of literature international. So the study of literature has become internationalized, globalized in trying to approach the study of literature through translations, through comparative study, and all that. And so it's a big shift, of course, from studying one national literature to studying literatures across cultures.
Okay, so what are the basic tips probably that you would give to an early researcher or a young researcher? Because you said right now the research has evolved over the years. I think you mentioned about how the literature has become a global and international trend. So what would be the basic tips or small tips that you would give?
Set of books to read first
Okay.
about the writer and about the background to the writing and the writer, and oral or a written test would be conducted to get to know how interested the reader is in a particular topic. As far as literature studies is concerned, studies are concerned, I told you there are many types of studies in literature possible. There are many cultural literary theories also. And so he or she might be interested in one or two literary or cultural theories. Most famous being feminism, which is quite popular among women candidates. It's picking up with men candidates too. That's something that I would like to mention here. As a shift or a changeover or a transformation in the field of literature as far as its study is concerned, research is concerned. So they might have a fascination for a literary or a cultural understanding or a theory of studying literature. So I would want to know about that. And so I would give another set of books to read on that particular cultural literary theory for them to have a thorough knowledge. And that's how I asked them to go with the whole thing. Reading is all, as Shakespeare says, rightness is all in King Lear. Reading is all. Reading is everything for a student of literature. If a person of literature, student of literature, teacher of literature doesn't have a taste for reading, I think he or she fails right there in the first step. And so I first want to know if the candidate wants to register for PhD as a taste for reading. A taste, is a subconscious factor. Subconsciously, the reading must enthuse the person. He must be a subconscious reader. A taste for language, sometimes taste for humor, and all that I look for in a literature researcher. But this can be anyway in certain of them cultivated.
Yes.
At a time when they come to register, if it's pretty early, soon after they finish their MA, if they come, well, they can still cultivate this habit of reading and get into that habit. I've seen a couple of my own wards beginning to read only after they register, but they get on to read quite a number outside the context of the research topic. And that was very, happy for me as a research guide. So that is the first thing. They must have a taste for reading, and they must do it on their own.
Yes, exactly.
They must simply read everything and anything, all muck, including on a particular topic or outside the topic too. I always believe that the students of literature, with due excuses to people from other areas, are the most commonsensical individuals, and even more, all the more in the case of researchers, it's because they must know everything and anything of a person's or a community's livelihood, economics including. They read about it in Marxism as approach to understanding literature. And so reading and interest in all fields of life, including medicals. These days, medical humanities is an upcoming area. Including medicine.
Yes. So with this, ma'am, you said reading is very important. So I think you did your PhD after you got married, am I right?
Yes.
So how did you find time? How did you spend hours like juggling the work and the home? Did you find it difficult? Of course, I know. Yes, it's a tough question, but still, I wanted to know from your experience.
Anyway, not much. Yes, because I live in a joint family setup. I have people at home to help me with the cooking and help me with the running of the house. And of course, having to live a married life.
Yes.
Spending quality time with the spouse and children definitely demand a lot of time. And I have my parents. I had my parents. My mother is no more, but I had my parents living there when I registered, so I had to look after them too. Quite a toll on my time, but I had a lot of time left to myself to work for literature. And I had the HODs who, when autonomy was brought into this, is something I would like very specially mention with profuse thanks to the previous HODs of my department. Dr. Nadarajan, Dr. Paul and Satyamuthi, Dr. Roop Kumar, who, when autonomy is brought into the syllabus, when our syllabus became autonomous, we had the privilege and the freedom to bring in topics and texts related to our own PhD areas. Almost all of us of the department, we were asked to choose our own texts of our own PhD areas. So that made us to become all the more thorough with our PhD areas, and that also facilitated ease with the teaching of those topics in classes too. Because we would spend time reading on those texts, both for a PhD and for the classes, of course. This, of course, limited our reading, and but it was very focused, I would say, our reading, and so both the classes and the research we were able to manage at the workplace. This was a facilitation. My profuse thanks to the previous HODs.
Ma'am, there's always a question in mind. Does research really help in teaching? As from your statements and from your words?
I would say a big yes. I would say a big yes. For research, we do read a lot. We do read widely. I would say reading is wide. This is the dimension I would like to choose. Reading widely. Everything and anything about research, including economics, the ecological concerns, and so many other environmental, medical, and name it, it's there, related to, connected with man's life, and so it's related to, connected with study of literature when it's fictionalized, when man's life is fictionalized, science and science fiction and all that. If you will take, of course, for the question that you just asked me, it's a big yes.
Ma'am, these days we talk about the mental health for women, since this whole podcast is about Women's Day. So what do you think that women's health is getting affected because of PhD, or do you need a good support system to support? What is your take on it?
Students, if they are not guided properly about their path of research, what they must do first, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever steps, how many steps they prefer to take by the guide, or the students themselves must explore the steps, and they must chart out in very clear terms these steps of their path. If they fail to do that, they fail in their progress. Most of the time we get to hear from research students that there is what's called as, it's famously said, starting problem. The starting is all about drawing up a plan for your work. Yeah, you drop a plan, you drop a chart, how you would progress with your work. And go discuss with your guide. And get the guide, it's out of the experience that the guide has, the guide will approve of it or improvise that plan for you. And again, there is a plan of the books to read, or things to do, practicals, places to visit, and all that. Even for literature students, it's not just the reading that matters. It also means visiting historical places, archives, many other sources we have to bank on for our study, and any avid researcher would do that. Not just bank on the books, but would want to go hunt for every possible source which gives them knowledge about a topic. And so if they're very well planned, planning is all. I have a feeling that this planning must go on for about 6 months in the minimum. I don't know. I don't know with the time that's given by the...
6 months is for the initial stage?
Initial stage. Initial stage. Maybe the 6 months would start for some people ahead of meeting the guide. Ahead of meeting the guide. Must draw out a complete plan, and this plan cannot be drawn up solely by the person. This plan can be drawn up only after a discussion with fellow researchers or with the guide or some mentor, or friends, and drop a plan and keep editing the plan as and when you progress with the plan. When the plan is all up on your sleeve, the game is easy. And no one needs feel stressed. And I would also advise the researchers that you can even have a very healthy pause with your research for some time, for your own replenishment of your soul, or your physical well-being, your relationship with the family. Maybe you get married in the process, and so that matters a lot. You can give a very healthy pause to the research. If you're all planned, pausing for some time is no sin. And you do it, but intimating the guide about it. The guide should be always intimated about. That's very important.
Ma'am, you have had almost 7 candidates over the years. So in that, did you experience any setback from the student? Have they come back? So probably you had maybe 9 students, out of which only 7 were able to complete. Did you have any setbacks, or did they come to you, or did they pause, like just now as you mentioned? Any incidents like that?
One of them dropped out because of health issue. Very good candidate, and she wanted to do an English language teaching. She had to drop out because she had to take up a long period of treatment for serious health hazard, and so she later took up school teaching, and she started specializing in that, and she is okay now. That's a good news, but she could not pursue her PhD. Otherwise, every one of them was a gem. Every one of them enjoyed their space with me, and 1 or 2 of them took extensions, but many of them finished within time.
Wow. And time means, like, what is the time frame?
I mean, the 2 years for the full-timers and 3 years for the part-timers earlier on. Now it's 3 years for the full-timers. Since I'm on the verge of retirement, retirement is due next year, and I cannot register, and so I've not registered anybody recently. Another person registered under me, but did her DRC, but did not register under me because she chose another path of career. And so, otherwise, all of them, every one of them did their best.
Since you're looking very young, I'm sorry to ask you, what are your retirement plans? After teaching, what are you planning to do?
This should not be an exaggeration, or this should not be a kind of an attempt to pleasing you. My plan was originally, and it continues to be the same plan, the original plan. There is guiding researchers informally. I would love to do that. I would love to do that. Even in formal setups, I tend to be informal with the wards. One good thing is, none of my wards have taken advantage of the informality.
So that's why I told you, ma'am is the epitome of balm and comfort in the initial video introduction.
I don't know. I used to be surprised about that. None of them took advantage of my informality. Everybody enjoyed the space with me, and I enjoy the space with them too. They were all very good students of our college, other colleges in Tamil Nadu locality and various places of Tamil Nadu, and 1 or 2 of the girls married, children. They would take, as I said, a very healthy pause like that. And so I would like to informally advise or even guide research scholars who do it in literature, especially in English language teaching. That's made a specialization, even in literature for that matter. And I wish and hope that students do the research the right way in these days of AI.
These days AI is becoming a true threat.
A threat and a curse too, and very difficult to inculcate
the originality,
the habit of reading also. If there is reading in them, of course, naturally they tend to write properly. But since reading is missing largely, it's because of bad schools that are running around, even the central board schools and all that. It's because of the social media and the gadgets to which these kids have become helpless slaves.
Yeah.
Reading is diminishing, and
Yeah.
it's because of that.
Yeah.
Originality is getting lost
Yes.
slowly.
Correct.
So that's a big concern.
Yes.
I don't know how to help people there in that area. I simply am clueless.
Okay. 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 Last and final question, ma'am. What is a small piece of advice that you would give to women scholars? Because on account of Women's Day.
Women scholars should first of all learn to be very planned about your research. Drop your plan. Of course, time has to be divided between the family and research. Not only women, even men too, these days. You have to be very planned, as I told you. Drop a working plan, whatever the field be. Not in terms of the time you spend, but in terms of what you have to do. And before when, of course, that matters. Plan is all about time too. Planning and following the plan to about 80% meticulously will help. And please, this is in general a piece of advice, put your pen to paper to write down your plan. Stick the plan here, there, here, wherever, if your house permits that, if family permits that. And you women, if you're married, you speak up your mind very plainly to your husband. Feel all pepped up to talk in such a fashion. Even to your parents, I know some of you might be caught up in that tight corner of your parents having to get you married and settling you down in life, and you having to pursue your PhD, having to go to your college or university almost every day on a day-to-day basis because you're a full-timer and all that. You'll have to be well planned and speaking up. You must speak up for yourself and for your PhD and for your work. It's because your career is important. Your career is important not just because of money that you learn, but because of the many skills that evolve out of pursuing a career, like decision making and all that. I would call a skill. It's because it comes naturally to you if you're a learned person. And so that is very important too.
Yeah.
Speak up your mind,
Yeah.
well planned.
Yes.
Keep up your schedules and plans to about at least 80%.
Yes.
Things will work for you.
Ma'am, one last question. What are the career opportunities that a PhD scholar from literature department would get apart from teaching, or what do you think? How would he or she be placed in the society?
I get to hear from IT sectors especially that PhD is an overqualification. Maybe they call it so because IT doesn't need a PhD.
Yes.
But PhD also, on the other hand, apart from the knowledge about a subject, helps the researcher to groom in himself or himself a lot of skills, as I told you, problem solving,
Yes.
decision making,
Exactly. Yeah.
and all that. Communication, communication skills, soft skills, soft skills.
Yes, yes.
A lot of patience that you must have practiced as you do your PhD.
Yeah.
And so
Critical thinking.
Definitely critical thinking and decision making and all that. And so apart from teaching, a PhD will fit into any job. It's because of these skills. Nobody seems to understand that. They think PhD is all about an expert knowledge in the subject.
No. Yeah.
So many skills are involved in that.
Yeah, exactly.
This is important.
Ma'am, you have an experience of almost 30 years. You've
Yes,
been
yes.
here in Bishop Heber. You've You've watched, you have seen the students growing, becoming scholars and becoming faculty. So what's so attractive about Bishop Heber's College?
Bishop Heber offers what's called as freedom with responsibility
Okay.
and space.
Okay.
If this is mistaken or mishandled, students land in trouble.
Okay.
They're often given to mistake the word freedom while in class or while on campus. Be it a teaching, simple teaching in class, or a staff-student interaction as they meet outside the class or inside the class. What you can easily observe is the space that's easily offered to the students. That's one thing. And the freedom, freedom to study on their own, a freedom to pursue a subject, pursue an area on their own. Of course, they need assistance these days, that's offered. And the career counseling and all that is newly come up terms on the campus, I would say.
Okay.
Many of the Bishop Heber old students, alumni are well placed. It's because they had the freedom to choose their areas themselves. Nobody guided them those days, but I'm talking about 20 years ago and 10 years ago. But within about 10 years, in this term, the career counseling and all, that's because of the so many career opportunities that have come up recently. We talk about counseling on the choice of career, choice of jobs.
Okay.
And so Heber stands for freedom, the freedom that comes with responsibility, and space that's given to students, and space that's given by the HOD to the fellow staff, and staff to the students. And it in fact is modeled upon the MCCN culture.
Okay.
It's because Heber had many of its very early professors were MCC alumni.
Okay.
And so it's modeled upon the MCC.
So MCC, you're
campus
referring to
culture.
Madras Christian College.
Yes, Madras Christian College, Chennai.
Yeah.
And so it's freedom, responsibility, and space is what comes to my mind when I think of my college.
Okay. So viewers, as on account of on the occasion of Women's Day, we had a great and inspiring journey by Dr. S. SOBANA, who is also the HOD, head of the Department of English, Bishop Heber College, and Dean Academics. Ma'am, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
For spending this time, and thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel. Thank you.
Don't worry, be happy.